Did you see the video I did with Joanie from the Bite Shot where we built and shot that massive pastrami burger? If you didn't, you still can, the link is below. Consider this part 2. In this video, I go into the detail of building that burger and explain all the steps and tricks, so stick around. Okay, so I wanted to show you a more detailed version of the burger that we built in the restaurant, so I can give you some of the tips and you can see it up closely. The first thing we start with is our buns. So they're already squished, so you can see that one's squished. So usually I'm working with the top buns, and this one has kind of a flat side, so that's not going to work. I think this one is the best, but the way that I determine that is I look at it from the angle of where the camera is going to see it from when we put it on set. This has kind of a nice round top, so I do like that. So I think this is our top, and I wanted to point out that just because you choose a top of a bun doesn't mean you have to use its bottom. Feel free to take the top of one bun and the bottom of another. Actually, in this case, which hardly ever happens, I think the bottom that came with it is the best because it's so even and it's nice and tall. I try to get a thick bottom and a thick top because once you put all of the toppings on it, they kind of disappear. You can do this a couple of different ways. I just prefer to use the spread or mayo or something as a little bit of glue. This is their Russian dressing. I'm just going to put that on the bottom to act as a little bit of glue for my lettuce. There's a lot of things you can do. You can use some poly grip. You can just use the pins, which we're going to use anyway. Next, I want to talk about the lettuce. So restaurants have all different types of lettuces, mostly because they use them in their salads as well. So a lot of times the lettuce they use is iceberg, which is fine, but sometimes it's all chopped up into small pieces, which makes it really difficult to put on the burger. I bring the lettuce. I bring some green leaf lettuce because I think it's the prettiest. If they allow me to use it, then I go ahead and use it. Just tear off some pieces, kind of make a little skirt. Now, I am working on this from this side, which is the camera side, so I'm not super worried about what's going to go on back here. You'll see from this side that it will look good. So I'm going to put not just one layer, but 2 layers of lettuce, because once you start packing things on the top, it squishes down quite a bit, and you don't get the effect of the lettuce that you want. So I just give it like 2 layers. But by the time I do that, it's not sticking down quite so much. So this is where the pins come in. I use a lot of pins when I make burgers and sandwiches because I have to keep everything held down really well. So I have a couple different sizes of pins. I have T-pins, which I love. They work the best on the lettuce because this little part will keep the lettuce down. If you just put a straight pin in there, it will actually just go right through the lettuce. But you do need to put it in at an angle because this is taller than the bun is, and it will just go right through the bottom and poke your fingers. So we'll just put a couple of those in from this side, and that will keep our lettuce down. Okay, the next thing I also want to talk about is the tomatoes. I always bring my own tomatoes. Because I find that a lot of times the tomatoes that are delivered to the restaurant are kind of pinkish and they just don't look as good for a burger. I'm going to cut this. It's super important that you cut these evenly. You don't want a tomato that's this thick on one side and this thick on the other because you'll definitely see that. I cut them from the middle so I have a nice fat, flat side. If you don't feel comfortable cutting tomatoes so that they're even, then use a mandolin. It just takes some practice and some patience to get them all cut the same size. All right. Okay, so now that I have them cut, before I put them on the burger, I like to take my glycerin spray that I use for my condensation and give them a little squirt so that they have that fresh, condensated, clean washed look. And then I'm going to kind of overlap them a little bit and pin them on. Now the next thing would be the onion. Onion, there we go. There we go. Okay. We don't need the middles. So I'm going to put this one piece of onion on, but it's not quite big enough. So I'm going to take this little tricky thing here, open it up just a hair because I want it to bulge out a little bit the same, almost the same size as the burger. Okay, so we're to the point of actually our burger. So I'm just going to set this aside for a second because I need to use my heat gun, and I don't want the heat gun anywhere near this lettuce because it will just fry it. Okay, so you just want to melt the edges over on the cheese. The more you melt it, the more translucent the cheese will become, and it will look bad. It will look bad faster. So I just barely melt the edges over. I'm noticing also that the burger's starting to look dry, which I just use oil. It looks nice and freshly cooked now. And then we'll put this back on our burger. Okay, so now it's time to put the pastrami on. So I just kind of take the pieces and fold them up, kind of curl them up a little bit. That way they get some good height. Looks really full and plentiful. And of course I use my pins. Try to be careful not to have the pins too close to the front where the camera will see them. You could take them out, of course, in post, but why make your life harder? Just do it while you're working, and then you don't have to worry about the post work. And maybe one more right in the front. There we go, that's kind of nice. Okay, now we have this problem area back here, which will cause everything to slant down the back. So you could put almost anything in there. You could put a makeup sponge, some more onions, whatever, but I'm just going to go ahead and fill it with some more pastrami because it's just right here and it's easy. Even though we can't see the back, we're just kind of using it to prop up. So that'll be good. Okay, the front is looking nice. So this also gets some cheese. I could do this one of two ways. I could take this back off and melt some cheese, or I could kind of put some foil or maybe some wet wipes around the vegetables so that they don't burn when I use it, when I use the heat gun, because it will definitely fry them. But I think since I don't have that pinned down, I'm just going to take this off and put the cheese back on. So the first time I put the cheese on with the little point this way, so now I'm going to put the next piece of cheese on with the point going this way, so it's kind of symmetrical. That's nice. Okay. I feel like there's a hole on this side that the cheese is dripping down a little too much, so I'm just going to tear up a small piece of pastrami and fill that hole. It will look much better. It probably will require a pin. I'm going to use one that's just a normal pin so I don't have the problem with the T-pin. They're a little bit bigger. There, that looks better. It's looking a little bit dry though. I'm going to give the pastrami some water. It just seems to do better. Like ham and pastrami do better with water to make them look moist. And then the burger definitely looks better with oil. So let's put that back on top. And bring this back over. That looks pretty good, doesn't it? Oh, that looks delicious. Okay, again, keeping our burger wet. That's probably the most important part, is keeping this moist so it doesn't look dry or dark. That's the best. Okay, now as far as the lid goes, what I will do with the dressing, this burger has kind of a Russian dressing. And I just kind of put it around the edge of the bun. There's no need to put it on the inside. You'll never see it. Of course, if you did, it wouldn't matter. But I just put it kind of plentiful right here so that it will ooze out the way I want to. You could use a medicine dropper or something. I don't with this because this has some chunks of pickle and onion and things in it, and it won't go through the medicine dropper. And then this is kind of a one-shot thing without wiping it off. When you push it down, you kind of get one shot at that beautiful, there we go. Kind of push a little bit so you get it to squeeze out just a hair. And you can see it. You don't want it to totally drip down, but just so you know what's squeezing out. I think that looks great. This is the pastrami burger from the Miracle Mile Deli. You should go have one. I would eat this too. It didn't have a bunch of pins in it. I hope that was helpful. Of course, there's a little more to it than that, but that's all we could get into today's video. But keep coming back. I have more videos like this coming your way.